Well, I mean, the easy one is Mick Foley. The easy one's Mick Foley if you're talking about an airport or just traveling or, at a rental car counter or anything like that. And obviously, everybody has somewhere to go. Most times, wrestlers in the airport, leaving the airport or at the rental car or anything, they're getting to the show usually. They have to get to the show that day or travel. And if it's late at night and they're eating something, they're going to the next town. So you got to be, realistic that they might not be able to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes with you, but most wrestlers can spend 3 to 5 minutes talking, asking questions. My whole thing when I met fans would be to ask them more about themselves. What's your name? Who are who's your favorite wrestler? All that stuff. You don't have to say me. That's usually disarms them enough. You know what I mean? Because when you say who's your favorite wrestler, they kind of like look around. What am I supposed to say? You? It's like you don't have to say me. It's okay. I'm not even my own favorite wrestler. I like Flair, Michaels, all those guys and everything. So you disarm them. Mick Foley's great at that. You have a list of people here. I'd say Triple H is like that. I'd say China got like that after WWE when I saw her on convention. She was always very nice and gracious to people. Meanie's an easy one. Some people, I don't know, Demolition's awesome to talk to. I've seen them interact with the fans. And I actually went up and asked them questions like I was a fan too. And Barry and Bill were awesome. Both of them were really nice. Piper seemed to be good at conventions from what I heard and what I've seen in the limited amount of time. Who else? Most of these are really, you're talking about people like Paul Heyman, other people. Back in the ECW days, they would obviously have, Q&As and panels and stuff like that. But I don't know the present day Paul Heyman and WWE World or Fan Access, what that would be like. Duggan's awesome.
Just before we get through the rest of the list, did ECW have kind of like Smoky Mountain had at the time? Did they have fan conventions where, once a year fans would mingle with the wrestlers like for the entire evening? Or where would even these Q&As happen?
If I remember correctly, for some reason, it would happen before CyberSlam. They had CyberSlam, I believe 2 of them, 96, 97. They definitely had CyberSlam 97, and that would be people bust in from New York and other places, and they would do the Q&A there with Paulie, Bubba, Taz. Taz looked really happy to be there, by the way, as you can imagine. But they would bring in ECW people back and forth. They would have the big table on the stage at the hotel ballroom, and they would just ask questions. And there's probably fan cam footage of Paul answering questions from that Q&A. I think it was CyberSlam. Mm-hmm. But ECW would also have the bus trips that would include maybe some other meet and greet. But more times than not, especially at the arena, the boys would be putting out merchandise on the tables. The fans were coming in, and they would interact usually an hour before the show. It was very much a mingling atmosphere there. We weren't giving away anything. It wasn't like Taz and Sabu are standing next to each other right before the pay-per-view talking to fans. But they would make sure people would come out and especially baby faces interact with the fans. So kind of before every show is like a mini convention type thing.
I want to read some of these names that you've brushed past because I've gone through Reddits and forums and basically collated names for like the nicest and maybe least pleasant interactions as well. Where people have said their name multiple times in positive or otherwise. Jim Cornette, Hall and Nash, but the general consensus is if it's Hall and Nash, pretty good. If they're individual, really good. When they're in a group, less so. Apparently that seems to be the general consensus with like Click members, I guess. China at the time, with WWF maybe not so much, but in later years, as you say, a lot better. The Undertaker, a lot of these people, once again, you said, depends on their flight, depends on how much time they have, etc. But a lot of positive ones for The Undertaker, Owen Hart, Blue Meanie. I mean, I've met Blue Meanie, interviewed him and talked to him a number of times. I can definitely vouch for him. Ciampa, Rhea Ripley's very good. Malachi Black, apparently, which was bizarre. I thought, not bizarre, but like one name you wouldn't associate with someone who was, very easygoing to talk to and a lot of positive things. The Powers of Pain, I can absolutely say yes. Demolition, like you said, yes. Henry L. Godwin. Jerry Lynn, he's super nice, dude. A lot of the ECW guys are very, very cool with the fans as well, I think.
Yeah, the next name that you're going to talk about, and this might be a point where the fans are trying to get away from him.
Yes.
Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas, not for bad reasons, but if you ask Shane a question, it's kind of like my cameo. You ask me if like a question about something with wrestling and break it down and kind of analyze it, you're getting a 5 to 10 minute answer. Shane will give you, and he will quiz you and try to educate you. That's awesome. You're getting a maximum amount of value, but sometimes the fans are like, yeah, I got 50 more people I'm trying to meet. But that's why Shane is one of the best, I think, convention people, because he doesn't treat the fans like they're stupid. And even if they don't know, he will explain it in enough plain English to try to get you to understand it. And if you say, I want to be a wrestler, Shane will take as much available time as he has to try to tell you the reality of it all, but not discourage you. You know what I mean? Shane will, right off the bat, my experience might be different than yours. So Shane's one of my favorites to watch him not interact with the fans, but converse with the fans.
Yeah. Shane is, I would say, if you go
You already knew who I was going to say.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were going to say. I knew exactly what you were going to say. Yeah, Shane is, if you want to speak to one wrestler, you know, your first ever wrestler, sort of to even like warm yourself up into, you know, meeting these guys and everything, Shane's your man. He is the easiest person to talk to. He will basically talk at you. You don't, you know, and he will listen to everything you say. He's got great memory as well. So, I mean, if you see him in a few months' time, he'll remember you from the last time, kind of thing. Francine as well went, because I was watching Shane and Francine at the convention when I went to WrestleCon, and I thought, do you know what? They were so good with the fans, and I'd recommend both of them if you really want to talk to some wrestlers and really want to have a good experience. I'd say those two, absolutely, hands down.
And they kept up the act too, not in a negative way. They keep up the act. They both dress kind of like they would as if you were watching the act back in the 90s.
Now, there's Taz. We're talking later Taz. A lot easier to get on with, apparently. Back in the day, you said maybe not as much. Paul Heyman was mentioned a couple of times. Roddy Piper. The Young Bucks was mentioned a few times as really easygoing. Edge, his name kept coming up as someone who's great to meet at conventions.
Now, I don't have any experience with some of these people you just talked about. I've never been on a convention with Edge, the Young Bucks, or The Undertaker, or even a lot of these people, but I will speak to, you know, you talking about the reputation, but my personal experiences with that. Normally, you'll know who the people are who aren't good, because when you're good to the fans or you talk to them, they will immediately tell you who they had the bad experience with and how this is kind of making up for it or making them forget about it, or you're spoiling them for the next time they meet somebody who's going to fall far short.
Where else are we? Do other names? Eddie Guerrero, because obviously he doesn't do them anymore. Christian, Charlotte Flair, Ricky Steamboat's name came up a lot of times. Jim Duggan, I believe, is absolutely fantastic at these things. And once again, I saw an interview many, many years ago, and he just said, you know what? I hate the word marks. They're customers, they're fans. You don't call them marks. And I just thought that's so refreshing, because he's one of the old guard. He broke in the 70s. And it's so refreshing to hear somebody, you know, treat the fans like they're not scum or just, you know, like a walking money bag. Because I'm sure, you know, you'll know far better than me, a lot of the older guard, you know, it's a carny business, and they're the pigeons, they're the marks, kind of thing, and you sort of that relationship they carry around in their head. But the guys like Duggan and like Sergeant Slaughter is another name on the list, so, you know, make every person feel special.
He'll put the Cobra Clutch on you. He'll let you take a pose for a picture with the Cobra Clutch, which I keep telling him is going to end up with a lawsuit. Be careful, Sarge. There you go. By the way, we have to do a watch along of that match on Veterans Day in Washington, D.C. from Stevie Knight Heat days. Myself versus Sergeant Slaughter. Once again, goosebumps just thinking about it. I was going to say this too. Duggan's awesome. You know who's probably the most fan-friendly guy I've seen in modern history and doesn't ever get enough credit because he just has that reputation with people that want to think a negative reputation? Bagwell is probably the most, you know, fan interactive wrestler that you'll ever meet. He's like a Shane Douglas. You almost have to get away from him because he'll talk to you. He'll talk to you and he'll make you get your money's worth and give you a lot of information. So don't, you know, for Buff and all the people that have all this assumed opinion of him or perspective or whatever, you go to a convention, you go to a signing, you go to an independent show, Bagwell's going to make sure you get the interactive experience you're paying for.
Ricky Morton, I mean, I can vouch for Ricky. I mean, he's just tons of fun. He's just Ricky Morton day and night. He's great. Diamond Dallas Page, a lot of people have said, I mean, I went up to him and he didn't remember me from a week ago. But you know, he was very, very friendly and everything like that, and he makes a fuss out of every. You know, he's a good person to me. His line's always very long. A lot of these people's lines are very long. Adam Cole, who's just apparently I've never talked to him, but one of the nicest guys in real life. The Hardy Boys, the line they had at WrestleCon was outrageous, and they didn't have like the Sting or Ronda Rousey, you know, private room off where, you know, the queue snaking around. No, they were on the table with everyone else, and their line was as long as anybody's. Especially when they're together, of course. Perry Saturn, loads of people were happy to see him. He's back on the convention scene for a while. The Cat, Ernest the Cat Miller was.
Can I say something about Perry
please,
so you can disagree with me?
Yes.
He is just one of the nicest dudes that I've ever met, and one of the best workers, and just a guy that, you know, if you disagree with me, Perry, which you say you disagree with everything I say, I'm going to keep that joke
You will
going
never
for a
let
while.
that go, will you?
No, I won't let it go. And no, wrestlers don't let things go that are fun. And he can rib me just as much about a million different things. But to see Perry going to conventions and signing autographs and getting that you know, you get that wrestling itch scratched by going, you get your fix as far as bad use of words with wrestling. But I'm just saying, you get the affirmation by going to these things, and hopefully these conventions keep Perry continuing on that positive path. And also, it's passive income. It's easy money for wrestlers to make. So keep getting booked, Perry.
Brian Danielson, obviously, the Godfather, Mark Henry, Brutus Beefcake. His name came up a couple of times on the bad side, but a lot more on the good side, actually. D'Lo Brown, Bushwhacker Luke, Goldberg. Do you know what's so funny? Is that Bushwhacker Luke, like I was going up an escalator, he was coming down, and it's a lot different to recognize someone on camera than it is to, you know, to see them in real life, I guess, sometimes. Anyway, I was just minding my own business, and he slaps me on the arm and says, "James, how you doing?" It's like, no way did he recognize me from that, and that was like 2 years earlier. But yeah, he's cool as anything. Goldberg's name came up. Shawn Michaels' name has come up a number of times with people praising how good he was at these conventions. Another one, Velvet Sky. You've got to talk about Todd Gordon for a second, because he's just nice as pie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Todd gets it. Todd realizes, you know, we're all blessed to be a part of this business, and especially when you're a non-wrestler and you're able to still have memories, write books, and then share those memories and share the novel with people and promote it at conventions, and people will remember you. Todd was just as much, if not more, because of the origin of Eastern Championship Wrestling, not Extreme. You know, there wouldn't be an ECW without Todd Gordon. So I'm glad to see him get, you know, you use the term get his flowers, but I'm glad to see that Todd is he's booked more than we are. So good for him.
A few more names: Steve Corino, Al Snow, Jimmy Hart, Tyson Kidd, Kurt Angle, if he wasn't in one of his more troubled times, we have to say that. Christopher Daniels, someone I never talked to, but once again has a great reputation as just one of the easiest guys to get along with.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've known Chris for decades now. He's always been one of the nicest, kindest people. And if you ever do you want me to I can try to contact him for an interview.
I am retired.
Oh, two retired people here on the Stevie Richards show.
I'm happily retired from interviewing. Do you know what? I've had to turn quite a few interviews down as well. And it's like, 6.
You as the interviewer had to turn the interviewers down. Okay, I've got it.
I've been turned.
What did we just go into Bizarro World?
I'll tell you some names after. Chris Bay, Kenny Omega, of course, Victoria, Jay Lethal, Rob Van Dam, the Road Warriors. You know, they'll really make a fuss of people, apparently, according to a couple of posts I saw. Balls Mahoney as well, Rhino, Samoa Joe, and there's some really specific stories about how nice Samoa Joe was, or, spotting nervous people and calming them down. Some people get really nervous, and it's a fact of life, and some people will be nice to you, and then Samoa Joe will actively try and calm you down, that kind of thing. So, I mean, how often did you get nervous people coming up to the tables?
With me, I don't know. I never had that kind of reputation or that aura about me. I'm nervous around Joe sometimes too, by the way. So, but no. But if I do see somebody, and there are some things we're going to get to, my best practices or my habits or the things I do during a convention that most athletes won't do. So there's a little tease. Not a future episode. We're going to cover it in this episode, but I'm going to pick it up right now. Iron Sheik mostly, depending on point you get, but as time went on with the Sheik, they just wanted to hear him drop F-bombs on Hulk Hogan and humbling Brian. He became kind of a caricature or meme. where if you get Iron Sheik, which I have, and asked him about the Olympics, what it was like to train, becomes very lucid, tells the story. He's what is it, Cosmo or Kozlov?
No, you might be thinking of
His real
Kramer
name.
with Cosmo.
No, his real
it's
name.
Kozlov. Is it?
His first
I
name?
think, yeah. I
No.
thought it was Kozlov,
I
wasn't it?
think it's Kozlo or Cosmo.
Hang on.
I'm sorry. I thought it was and his middle name was Iron, the last name was Sheik.
No, actually,
but you asked,
his first name is Hussein, so it's Hussein Khosrow Ali Vaziri.
Oh, okay. Good Lord. I was close, I guess. So, but if you ask the right questions, maybe as a fan, if you know something about the wrestler that has nothing to do with the match, the moment, the push, the burial, the drama, the locker room, the first question to warm a wrestler up would be like Samoa Joe. Hey, man, I know you're a gamer. I'm a gamer. What's your favorite video game? What are you playing right now? Right there. That's how you can disarm a wrestler as much as a wrestler will disarm the fans. Sometimes literally.
Oh, that'll be coming up, I'm sure, at some point as well. Mick Foley, but he weirdly makes the worst list as well on occasion. I think he does so many. Some people do so many of these that, you can, I guess, not always at your best, or you're just worn out, I suppose. Ivan Koloff, Harley Race, The Miz. And I tell you what, The Miz, he's a dude. I've heard him in interviews, and it's like, you can say what you want about, his wrestling or his on-screen character, whether you liked it or not. He's a dude who, by his own admission, will never say no. Oh, you need somebody to make this personal appearance. I'm first in line to do it. Get up early in the morning to go to the radio station to plug whatever show it was. He will do it. And he's always positive. He's always got a ton of energy and that kind of thing. And no one has ever had, unless they played him at Top Golf at WrestleMania 41 and didn't actually get to meet him, no one's got a bad Miz story with personal appearances. He's very good at them, apparently.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's back up to the wrestling part of it. Miz is a solid wrestler. Miz can wrestle, and Miz came from a reality show. Let's not forget about his 2 reality shows. He was on The Real World, correct? Or was it?
He was on
Real
Fear
World.
Factor when that guy tried to attack Joe Rogan.
That too. So this then Tough Enough, right?
Road Rules or something like that was he on?
No, he was on basically Tough Enough was the second or third reality show. So he was he was starting out with 2 strikes against him and Maven and everybody like that. I remember the boxing match during the Tough Enough thing. Remember that's where he started he had a boxing match with somebody. I think it was Pewter.
Did he?
He had a boxing match, I believe, during the competition phase of that. Look it up if you can, but I'll go back to the wrestling. The Miz is an excellent worker. He's a great worker. For somebody to be able to work with a whole host of different styles and only be injured 1 to 2 times in his entire career. He's not being careful. He's bumping, putting people over, taking finishes. And as far as promos, I don't think anybody, when Miz is pushed by the machine in the right way, like he did on that WrestleMania season, going into WrestleMania, I think 28 into Atlanta, Georgia, they did him a disservice by not making him run with the belt longer. In other words, he looked like a Jinder Mahal in the eyes of casual fans, just strictly a transition champion. But how many people have been Grand Slam winners on multiple occasions? How many people could make Bobby Lashley a babyface almost instantly for that COVID era world title reign that he had? Remember that?
I also remember him getting
Miz
eaten by
makes-
zombies a few years ago.
Glad too. Miz makes other guys. Miz is the ultimate utility player and deserves every spot that he's been not given, I should say, opportunities so he can take that spot. And the fact that a guy can show up, go away, show up again, go away, and then still be just as hated or loved no matter what he's given.
It was WrestleMania 27, by the way. I knew 28 didn't sound
Excuse
right
me.
because 30 was
Sorry
Daniel
about that.
Bryan. I'd say you're absolutely right. The Miz is a utility play, but also similarly, I would also say he doesn't excel at any one thing, but he's good at everything, kind of thing. Would that be fair to say about the Miz?
Yeah, but isn't it enough for anybody to be a top star in wrestling?
Yeah, he's main event of WrestleMania. He's been the world champion more than once, and yeah, of course it is. And he's really easy to deal with as well. So
Exactly. Did you fact check that boxing match?
Daniel
Did I
Puder,
get
you're
that wrong?
absolutely right as well. Well
Yes,
done.
CT. Not today. Maybe tomorrow.
Back in the day, Randy Savage, Bobby Heenan, only a couple more left. Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin, and a couple more I wrote down. I completely forgot to mention Dutch because he says I love doing conventions because I'd rather talk to the fans than the boys, and he just likes hearing other people's stories.
He took the words right out of my mouth, Dutch. You and I are more. You get to a point you want to fall back in love with the business to some point. If you're around the wrestlers and the promoters and everybody in management and you're in that bubble, you start to resent it and not realize what a absolute gift it is. The fans at the conventions do every bit as good for the wrestlers as the wrestlers do for the fans.
There was one more on the list that, in fact, I didn't put it on the list, but I have to mention it. Hulk Hogan. I mean, the amount of you say what you want about him as far as a performer or his private life, I guess, but the fact is that so many people have come away with positive interactions with Hulk Hogan from signings and Make-A-Wish and all that kind of thing as well. He's the kind of person, at least in that aspect, wrestlers should emulate. He comes from the carny old school 70s, breaking in. But you know what? He made fans for life, thousands upon thousands, by treating them all well.
Yeah, and now in present day, when you go to Hogan's Beach and he's there, there's tons of social media videos over the years of Hogan interacting with little kids and begging off and, yo, brother, you know what I mean? And the kids are doing it. And then he's got the karaoke night and other things at his bar. So, like, he's doing the interaction, not just at conventions, he's doing it at his places of business as well. He literally did break into the business. They broke his leg. So there you go.
It's funny, I've heard a differing story about that.
I have too. I was about to mention. I don't know if it's 100% true. Yeah. Let's stay on the positive.
We'll stay on the positive. Okay, well, we're not going to now. Should we even bother mentioning a couple of the worst wrestlers? I mean, we can mention a couple of names that I don't feel bad mentioning out loud. Raven. Loads of negative ones. That if nothing else, he's just all business. But he's one of the guys who looks at fans like complete marks. You're a mark. You owe me.
Well, it's not only that, but Raven, like with your interview, Raven has a tendency, and he's not alone with this. I think some other people, at least Raven, is being genuine. Guys try to hide it. But it's almost like sometimes Raven thinks he's too good to be there, or that's the impression. It doesn't matter. Perception's reality, right? So whether he means to or not, that's the way it comes off. He couldn't be bothered. And he's not alone in that. And he's also not alone in the fact that there are wrestlers out there that feel that way, but they can fake it. And then when you get into that green room or something, it's like the Ben Affleck smoking outside the restaurant picture. So that's very much what it is. Raven's one. I know Flair, depending upon how you get them. Let's put some context on this, by the way. And I don't know, I can't speak for Raven or Flair or anybody, but there's certain factors, and there's no excuse with this. It's just the same thing as going into a show, going into work. If you have a bad commute to work, saying if you have a bad drive to the airport, you got a bad flight, it's delayed, it's canceled, you're not in your routine, you didn't get to work out that morning, although I would get up early, I'm going to work out. You didn't get a proper breakfast, you start to, all these factors, then your rental car is not ready, or they gave it to somebody else, and you got to take a cab or an Uber to the building. The promoter shorted you on the pay when you walked in the building. This is all before you interact with fan number one. That's why and like I said, there was a time when I was in the bubble and doing these conventions that I wasn't necessarily bad, but I didn't put my best foot forward, which may not have even been interpreted as that way, because with stuff like other people, the bar's set kind of low sometimes. But what I would say, even if I was running a little bit late, I would ask the promoter, is there any way when I get there that I can have 5 minutes to decompress so I'm ready to be my best self? Or I would sit in the rental car and just take some deep breaths and just say, it's like the stand, the guy from Saturday Night Live looking in the mirror. But I'm closing my eyes and realizing you've dreamed of this since you were a kid. This is all you ever wanted to do. And you're not taking bumps. You're not doing anything. Everybody wants to meet you or meet a wrestler. You're getting paid to sign your name. Where usually when you're signing your name, you're paying somebody else with a check or a bill or something. when you do that 3 to 5 minutes, you have perfect perspective, you have a perfect outlook, and you're excited to get in there. And that's something that a Ric Flair or a Raven or anybody else could just be having a bad day. And it just snowballs, right? The domino effect, and it gets worse and worse and worse.
I'm more of the opinion that you're being paid, and a lot of people are being paid 4 figures to turn up to these wrestling conventions, fake a smile. You know, I'm one of those people.
Why fake it though? You should be smiling to get 4
Yeah.
or 5, however many figures. You don't have to act like you're happy about
Okay,
that.
that's exactly what I want. Right. As some of these people doing too many of these conventions and just becoming too cynical or even too entitled to the point where they're not putting their best foot forward in these conventions. Because some people do like every weekend and travel across the states or wherever.
I spoke when I was at Chicago Comic-Con. I spoke to like zombie number 47 from The Walking Dead or whatever extra that was there making money. And they worked the convention circuit. So the Comic-Con with the people from Supernatural or other cult classic TV shows or Star Trek or whatever, Walking Dead, they make a full-time living on the convention circuit. I get that. I'm making a point about this. But with wrestling, the more you go back to a promotion, the more you do the conventions, I feel like it's less special for you. Maybe your monetary value or your booking fee goes down. So I would definitely limit those as a pro wrestler just because it's like the big 4 of pay-per-views, sort of. When they started having 12, 15 pay-per-views, nothing special. But if you had 4 per year, you look forward to that. So maybe it's a bad analogy. I think it's a decent analogy to say with wrestlers, with wrestling in general, here's the saying, less is more. You do less of them, you get paid more. The fans don't get exhausted. You still have the lines. But if you're doing 12, 13 a year and you're going back to the same ones, yeah, have you noticed that from people, like if you've gone to multiple conventions or signings, that they do kind of come down with that? Oh, I already got the autograph. I already met this guy. I'm not going back.
Yeah, if you liken it to a wrestling card, you find yourself dropping further and further down the card, basically, of importance. The more you do, in that sense. And once again,
what I would say is this. Excuse me,
no.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You want to always feel like you're a special attraction at the conventions and not just another guy on the card.
With that being said, now some of these, you never know. You could just be in the wrong mood, or someone takes something wrong, and that's why they mention your name. But these are people whose names have been mentioned numerous times. I had to pick them up. Mick Foley, once again, but he does so many of these and does so much travelling and so many appearances that, I'm sure he's just grumpy and tired quite a lot of the time, quite frankly, even though he's got the reputation of being a super nice guy, which I'm sure he is. I'm sure you do so many, once again, it can be wearing, as you were saying. Now, Ric Flair, tons of complaints about Ric Flair, doesn't look you in the eye most of the time, doesn't listen to what you say, signs, get out. Lots of reports of him jacking up the price throughout the day as well. So, I mean, he basically hits...
He's doing the Wendy surge pricing?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Not the only one. Not the only one. There's...
Do the Fargo strut. I'm doing the Fargo strut to higher fees. Figure 4 loans, baby.
So there's definitely that one. I won't mention that guy's name. I won't mention that guy's name. Amazingly, so maybe not so much, Chris Benoit's name came up as just someone who always had a great big F off on his forehead, didn't want to be there at any of these signings. Jerry Lawler.
People probably got lucky.
Yeah.
You probably do want to get away.
No. I mean, assuming you're not, drug defenseless, relative, you're probably fine. Jerry Lawler, similarly, some say great, some say not so great. Jake the Snake Roberts' name came up numerous times as someone who is the kind of, with the Carney mentality of grumpy, doesn't want to be there, just everything unapproachable, I guess. And I'd read numerous complaints about him. Virgil, because he just tries and hustles you constantly, whether, in the subway or in the restaurant at the Olive Garden or wherever he was. He was basically a nightmare to deal with, I guess. Raven, unsurprisingly, Ultimate Warrior had some famous complaints. Superstar Billy Graham was very much a hustler. I've got one name. I might edit it out if you want me to. Bully Ray. his name came up as someone several times.
Well, here's the overarching theme with all these names that you're saying don't want to be bothered to be there or try all these old school carny tricks or they don't want to interact with the fans. Then what the hell did you take the booking for?
Oh, you know.
Simple as that,
Yeah.
right? For money. But the money, I said this during the Just Incredible thing. This is not hard. Exchange of the service for the money. They pay you a good amount of money in an economy that's not doing so great. And if somebody's going to give you these combo prices are minimum $30 to $40. They might be more now with inflation and everything. So say it's $50 for a picture and an autograph. For 2 to 3 minutes worth of work, 5 if you really want to have a conversation, and you multiply that times whatever, and someone is there to push the line along so you can play good cop, bad cop. I do that all the time, even though I like when I'm genuinely interested in most fans and what they have to say, their perspective, their opinions, and also when we're talking about video games and stuff. But the heavy literally has to cut me off and well, probably Shane too, and move the line along. So you can play the good guy all throughout that, and that heavy or the handler can play the bad guy. Why do you need to do that? It's so weird how even with a Ric Flair, have that guy jack the prices up and you're kind of saying, hey, I'm trying, but he brought me in, so he's trying to make his money back. It's a lie, but at the same time, the Bubba thing, I don't know. Bubba's such a natural heel, and that's where he drew his money. Obviously, in real life, it seems like people say he is too. But why do you do the conventions then if you want to keep up the heel, the mean heel character? I know money,
Yeah, well,
but I'm
people
just
keep
saying.
paying him. Let me give you a few more, then we'll sort of put a bow on this. Austin Aries' name came up several times. I'm sure you'd be shocked to hear. MJF, but similarly, he is very much in character all the time. But quite frankly, that would turn me off entirely because I just find that exhausting, and it's just like, you know what?
The novelty's worn off. For like a couple of conventions, it was good with the middle finger in the little kid's face, but it becomes exhausting, like you said.
It's like that's why I never wanted to interview MJ. Not that I ever asked because AEW turned me down flat, but it's just like I don't want to do in-character interviews. I'll only mention a couple more. Prince Albert. For some reason, Prince Albert's name came up way more than once, and even other wrestlers. In one of the anecdotes I read, everyone apparently was really fine, and then the wrestlers were telling the fans, "Whatever you do, don't go to A-Train," because he's just grumpy all the time. So there you go. And for some reason, people said Colt Cabana, which I didn't really see. I don't know. Maybe it's just like on the sell, the hard selling.
Oh, it could always be the thing with Matt Bloom is you should be happy anybody's booking you. How's that? I'm going to say it straight up. The Colt Cabana thing could just be. It could have been during the time with the lawsuit with Punk. You know, that's why I'm saying you have to disconnect any personal strife or any. It's difficult to leave things at home, but you can do it when you get into a match. And this is basically you're in an arena of a convention, but you're not taking any bumps. So technically, it should be easier to do this, but for some reason, people treat it like it's harder than actually wrestling a match.
So there you go. So really, the overarching theme is most of the people who go to these conventions are great with the fans.
Wait a minute. You left out 2 names. You left out our biggest moneymaker here.
Go on.
The Rock.
Did I?
You put the Rock, Juventud Guerrero, Virgil, and then you shared a personal experience about Jungle Boy.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about Jungle Boy. Yeah.
Come on, the Rock is he's the AdSense boss.
Yeah, he was just
not the final boss.
I think he's one of those things where we'll talk about this in a minute as well. It's just WWE, you know, they sit you down, it's after a show, and they rush you through, basically get your autographs and leave kind of thing. But I think that's just the WWE system more than The Rock. But yeah, Jungle Boy, I was at I don't know what, I can never remember what it's called, the one in Manchester a few years ago. He was sat there, he was a babyface as well, right? So he had like a live interview in the ring where all he did was complain. And then he was sat on his own at a table, leaning back, looking at his phone the entire time. I was like, that is the most, like, you are being paid to be here. Smile. You know, like, come on. I don't get it. I mean, give the fans. No one was around this table either. So he was getting what he wanted. He already had his, he'd already been paid up front, I guess. And then was just, once again, just like, you might as well just had F off tattooed on his forehead. It was like so unattractive for people to approach.
Let me ask you a question, just playing, the alternative theory of this. Did this coincide with his early heel turn or the beginning
before.
of the heel turn? I'm just asking. I didn't know if they were trying to get too cute and outsmart themselves, or they just said he's a prick, so we should turn him heel.
Well, I genuinely thought that, because shortly after that had come out, then they started changing. He started all of a sudden looking like Danny Masterson. You know what I mean? From that 70s show.
So somebody was smart enough to see, let's just go along with because that kind of went viral in the wrestling world. I remember seeing that clip of everybody sitting in the ring and him being completely disinterested.
Yeah. So I figured genuinely that's where the heel turn came from, was that convention.